The hour of 6 p.m. having arrived on Monday, July 19th, here in Borough Hall. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to order. First on the agenda is an approval of the minutes. And I apologize, Fred. I actually saw something when I was looking over them again this evening, and it's a minor thing, but just as far as the attendance goes, Emily and I both share the title of co-chair. So I don't know if that model is confusing or problematic for anyone. No problem. Any other feedback on the minutes or any other comments?
Just in paragraph 2, it says Ms. Donaldson instead of Mr. Little administrative.
Thank you, Raz. Anyone else? Feedback on the minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes with the necessary corrections.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, ayes have it. Minutes are approved. And then, Fred, if you wouldn't mind just getting that corrected copy to Stephanie and the rest of us. Okay.
I don't have many copies, so you have to send me the. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I apologize that I didn't mention this when we called the meeting to order, but under the discussion of topics and issues, I would like to add an item C regarding the Carlisle Indian School, just for our records on the agenda. Adding an item C regarding the Carlisle Indian School. So, Wrath, we will kick it off to you for some action plan conversation. And let me just say that the way this group has rallied here to pull together this action plan is really remarkable. And I'm impressed and in awe of your professionalism and dedication to this process.
Okay. So what I've done very, very quickly was to sketch down what we said at the end of our meeting, or excuse me, at the end of our discussion about the action plan at our last meeting. So at our last meeting, we decided that we just wanted to have an action plan that essentially does truth-telling and fact-finding about the topics mentioned in the set of slides that Deputy Mayor Schultz shared with the community that led to the creation of the commission. And so essentially, I took the truth-telling and fact-finding kinds of exercises that we discussed, mentioned those in the first sentence, and then kind of in the rest of it, mentioned that the truth-telling and the policy recommendations would be about those 5 major subjects mentioned in that set of slides. Then I left the set of the chart essentially the same, and collaboratively we've come up with, in addition to the items that were there from before, we kind of changed around the timeline thanks to Kendall's few changes with the actual dates. So that's what we have so far, and I guess maybe the way to proceed is perhaps to ask if there are suggestions or questions or thoughts about the paragraph or the general structure. Maybe that's the first question. Is there questions about how we want to think about changing the general structure of this? And then if not, then we can talk about the different parts and see if it is possible to come to some type of consensus now, or whether we'll need an extension or some such thing. So first question, do people have comments or thoughts about the general structure of having an introductory paragraph and a kind of chart of tasks? Sounds.
I think it's a good model.
Good. Step 2. So how about the first paragraph? Does that work for everyone, or are there changes that people would like to see?
be one thing that could be proposed. Do we have to have our mics on today?
Yes.
We do. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
You have people on the Zoom listening.
Right, of course. Apologies. One proposal I might have is in that very last sentence. I think this is otherwise great. We might say, based on the information from examining these areas, we will develop policy proposals to address these problems and any other problems we discover. To kind of address that, we talked about how we're going to use the slides to guide our truth-telling mission, but then over the course of collecting feedback from the community, we might identify additional items. And so maybe that would just make some room for that. Otherwise, I think this is fantastic. Thank you.
I think that's a great suggestion. Other thoughts that folks have in addition?
I like that idea.
No, it's fine with me. I mean, I was initially, the way I initially read it was that when it said these disparities include, I guess I didn't take that word include to mean that those were the only things included in there, but I guess it didn't say included but not limited to. So I was processing. So I understand why Emily made that suggestion, and makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I also think it points to recognizing that racism doesn't it helps to expose some of the covert sorts of racism that may come out of our research that maybe we weren't looking for, but can no doubt still address.
Any other remarks about the opening paragraph? Any other changes folks would like to see besides Emily's excellent suggestion?
Can I make just a grammatical one?
Please.
I'm probably nitpicking. First sentence, could we use all the like everything to be an action verb? So like instead of including surveys, say surveying, so that we're consistent surveying, performing, collecting, and maybe conducting more systematic research. Does that make sense?
I see.
It's hardly an issue. It's
Sorry, I'm trying to get online.
yeah. Doreen, back me up on this one.
Yeah, I backed you up
Okay, cool.
as soon as I get online.
Yeah, I have no deep attachment to the words as they are. I just thought the words including surveying sounded a little bit awkward, the two gerunds running together. So that's why I did it that way. But
No, not saying get rid of that. I'm just saying for each action to make it an actionable, like to make it an action verb, surveying of the community, performing, or at least to keep it consistent. So it could be surveys of the community, archival research, oral history collection, but just to be consistent in that. So either way.
And in that case, you mean getting rid of the word including and just saying surveying, which would be fine. Because I do agree with Rav, including surveying doesn't flow very well. But you can get rid of the word including and then it's fine. I'm actually fine with it either way.
so for the last in that list, that one might change to and more systematically researching. But researching what? Because I don't know that research. Would that?
Might we say conducting more systematic research?
Okay, good.
So now we're going right from fact-finding exercises, comma, surveying of the community, or is there going to be an EG or such as? Because I think it's actually not grammatical if there's not including.
I kind of do like including the word including, or at least something that shows that it's not like finite, right?
So the revision that I have in mind, taking into account these remarks, would read something like the following. We plan to engage in truth-telling and fact-finding exercises, which includes surveying the community, performing archival research, collecting oral history, conducting more systematic research, including.
Are you having an online trouble?
Me as well?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Would you like to use this so that you can just make the changes?
I could do that, yes.
I mean, it's
Here, give me your computer. She's on
Yeah,
right now.
so-
Oh, good. Thank you.
These changes are going to look like they're coming from me, but they're actually from Brad.
Other remarks about the paragraph.
I also think it's very comprehensive and matches our mission statement to a degree, which is good for consistency's sake.
Yeah, I think it's excellent, Raph. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So remarks about the chart, which lists a bunch of action items in particular and dates. I'll just flag one thing. Co-chair Tawanda mentioned a date problem that I have since fixed. One of the 2021s was mistakenly put as a 2022. But besides that, any other additional changes to the chart, items that people would like to see, dates that people think are incorrect, other things that should be added that will be more reflective of the first paragraph, and any suggested changes.
Can I just make one comment? And maybe we're too far down the line to make this, because I agree structurally. I think this is directionally right on. The word ongoing always makes me a little uncomfortable in an action plan. And I'm not even opposed to leaving it. Do we consider putting like a projected start date as a column in here? Which may just give a little, it may time box some of this instead of just keeping it out as ongoing.
I think agenda management will be important there. I mean, I was a fan of the more detailed syllabus when we were working on that analogy, but I think there's a good level of detail here, and in terms of coming up with more precise dates, we might use kind of the agenda setting process to come up with more precise due dates.
I think too, a lot of the items that are ongoing may be in response to what happens in our community. So there may be a need to either get ahead or get kind of behind a certain date if we were to choose one. And the things that are ongoing are all ongoing.
Yeah.
I think that these are activities that will take place with this group and subsequent commissions as well.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be hard to be too specific until we finish the exercise, the prioritization, and I think that's where that comes in comes into play, because when we really narrow things down at that stage, and then we assign perhaps specific tasks to whether it's to individuals or groups of individuals, then we can set target dates. I just don't know that we would be able to give any true definition to start and end dates. We certainly know what the end in mind is. I mean, I think that's kind of suggested in here because we're going to, by June of next year, go to the council and say we need more time or we're on track. So we have to have those things, pretty far along by then, which means we'll have to start fairly soon.
And I think too, what I hear Emily saying is that those things would be more detailed in our prioritization exercise document and that sort of thing. I really like this chart because I feel like it's a good mesh of that course description and syllabus model, that it's not as detailed as the prioritization exercise, but it's not as vague as, something that like I may have suggested about 1, 2, 3, these are the action steps, and letting that go. So I'm not sure if you were ready to segue into it. Do we need more time question? I think that was something that I had raised earlier, and I don't think that there's necessarily a need for that. One of the things that that I still think we might want to think about, and I don't know if Councilor Stubbe or Deputy Mayor Schultz are available to speak to this. So right now they have the mission statement and bylaws that's gone to council for their review. And then does it make sense to get that reviewed and approved and in place and say, okay, that's good, well then now here's the action plan? Or is it possible that they could kick back our mission statement? I don't think that they will, but they could kick back our mission statement and bylaws and say, these are some things that we would like to see done differently. And then we would have to maybe rework or retool or rethink some things in our action plan. So do we want this to be a separated process from the mission statement and bylaws? And then also, do we possibly want to give council an opportunity to not only weigh in on the action plan, but are there specific items that their constituency have raised to them that they know to be true and would like to see investigated by this body? So there's a compound.
So I think my thinking is twofold. So first, we actually were given the due date, so I suppose we should respect it. But the second thought is, I suspect that the process of having a public meeting about all three of these items will reveal all those things if they should come out. So I think it probably makes most sense to just deliver what we've been asked to deliver when we're supposed to deliver it, and there'll be a public meeting, and counselors will be available to offer whatever feedback they have to us then or thereafter.
Okay.
They are both on Zoom if you did want to talk to them.
Yeah, I'm happy to just jump in briefly. So maybe to Raf's point, at least the way it was written in the resolution and the way I envisioned it was more or less like that. That once you had, as a commission, approved all of those documents and then shared them with council, we would schedule essentially a public meeting with council present as well as all of you for all of us to have an open discussion about them, for members of council to provide their feedback, as well as for members of the public to attend and provide their feedback on any of the documents. So the goal being that once you approve the action plan and send that to council, all three of those would be made public on the borough's website. We would have a set date that we would hold a public hearing with all of us present to openly discuss those, to allow members of the public to attend and share their thoughts. And then, go from there as to whether, you consider making any revisions to any of those documents.
Thank you. One of the things that I know has been a sticking point for a few elected officials in the borough is sort of an examination of the borough crest. And I don't know how that necessarily fits into our current action plan, except to provide opportunity for members of council or other elected officials to say, hey, this is something that matters to us, and we would like to see it investigated, retooled, researched, those sorts of things. I'm not sure how that necessarily fits into the current action plan, or if a row would need to be added.
Could we add it to the preamble? That last sentence, based on the information gained from examining these areas, we will develop policy proposals to address these problems, comma, other problems revealed by the research, and other problems referred by council and other bodies. And then that way it wouldn't be in the table because it wouldn't be ongoing or date based. It would just be something that could be taken on board.
I can get on that train.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I don't know what the crest looks like. So
It's right there on the carpet. It's the busy piece of art to the left.
okay. Let me see. So yes.
Yeah.
I think it would be quite appropriate to revisit that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that
I
so? Is
concur.
is it strong enough to be in the paragraph, or do we want it to be a row? I'm good with it just being in the paragraph, or do we think it warrants going to a row?
I think it would be interesting to look and see if there are other emblems or crests within Carlisle that also need to be examined. Do
And
we
that-
know?
Well, good point. But then, are we starting to get too weedy for the action plan? And is that more of something that would be addressed in the prioritization? So I guess I'm giving a case for one thing and then giving the argument against it too.
But how can it be given a row or figured into the prioritization exercise? Because are you talking about the crest specifically, or a case like that where we hear that Borough Council would like to refer something to us, and we don't know the specific shape of the problem they intend to refer?
Both and. So a specific example being the crest now.
One general concern I have is about too many things that we don't anticipate being suddenly part of our mission, because I think that may distract us from getting almost anything done. So I do just worry generally about a line like we were considering, like anything that gets referred to us. So I just think to myself, well, how do we ensure that we keep on track if we're constantly putting out fires?
But at the same time, though, Raph, that's the body that's impaneled us, is council. So it's kind of like we're serving at the pleasure of the borough, right? So I think to a degree, council should be able to say, hey, TRC, here's this thing. And then we can decide, too, is that something that we feel is worthy our time? Is it worth us pursuing? Is it worth us looking into?
Couldn't we just kind of make the recommendation that maybe the Borough Council find a committee or develop a committee that deals with that? So in other words, we make that suggestion, but we don't necessarily take on the work. We don't, because we don't have time
Well,
for something that small, I guess, not
Well,
small, but
I guess I don't know that we need to put an extra line in the action plan or even specifically put it there. I mean, I do think it's something that's worth addressing, but I also know that part of the prioritization process is to get into the weeds of figuring out all of those things. The resolution that served as the foundational document to get this started specifically talks about Carlisle needing to come to terms with how it's dealt with Indigenous people and the Native American population. So it's already there. Now, there are many ways we can do it. There are land acknowledgments, there are correcting the crest, there may be other things that we come up with. The constant, news about, bodies being interned and all of that. So there's so many things that we can look at. So to put a line specifically to the crest, I think would just prompt needing to put a line specifically to so many other things. When to me, that's the level of detail that is best served when we prioritize.
So, are we coming to a consensus that what we want to do is have a line in the paragraph that says something like other problems referred to the commission by council, or
You persuaded me, Raph. I think nothing prevents council from referring things to us. They're like any other community organization. They're welcome to attend events that we hold. They're welcome to send things to us for consideration, just as any other concerned resident or non-resident is welcome to invite us to consider something.
and we might even think about that as the research. All right.
So not adding anything, not adding a line to the paragraph.
Sounds like it. Other recommended changes.
We are voting on this later, so let's get this exactly where we want it.
But we did keep any other issues that may arise. We kept the first edition when we were first talking about the paragraph, right? We're keeping that, right?
Yeah. So the last sentence of the
I guess I could look at it. I'm sorry.
yes, but I could just read it for everyone's edification. The last sentence reads, based on the information gained from examining these areas, we will develop policy proposals to address these problems and other problems revealed by the research.
I think that's good. I think that's good.
It protects us against allegations of sort of mission creep and expansion. If we say at the outset we're concerned about these particular areas, but we also realize other things might come up. There might be folks who are concerned that we're just kind of here to wag our fingers at any wrongdoers we find, and I think that shows that we're thinking about this strategically and systematically.
I'm good.
All right. I think if there are no other comments, I think we'll be ready for voting for this later. Thank you.
Thanks again, Raph, for all of your work on this, and the entire commission for rallying behind what started out as just a wee little Google table. And now a lot of things are coming together for us. So appreciate your work on that. Just one more piece of discussion that I think could probably fall into any other issues as they may arise, right? Or kind of fall into this ongoing piece. So earlier this week, the Rosebud Sioux tribe, and I apologize, I don't have all of my language together, began the repatriation of the Native American children who lost their lives as students as part of their attendance at the Carlisle Indian School. So Deb Haaland was here in Carlisle earlier in the week, and that process began. Was kind of low key, I think, until after the fact. I didn't really hear anything about it until later on in the week. She was actually here not here at Borough Hall, but here in Carlisle on the 14th of July. which I think was a Wednesday, and there were, other borough meetings that were happening on that same day. Later on that same week, council had the opportunity to host the International Fellows who come to the U.S. Army War College every year. So Mayor Scott and I think a few other folks from council hosted them here to talk about Carlisle, and that was all during the same week. And I just felt like the optics were quite interesting, that it seemed to me that there was a real opportunity for the borough to exercise their commitments to truth and reconciliation and to anti-racism in support of this repatriation project, but were completely absent from that process. The reasons for that could be that maybe the borough didn't know. Maybe they didn't know anything that was going on. There was no way for them to really show any support. There was really no, or what is that relationship? What is that? What does that look like? But I feel like there was a real opportunity missed for solidarity to be exemplified in a meaningful way. And in the same week that could have happened, we're hosting the U.S. Army in a different way. I don't know. The optics just for me felt very, just gave me pause. So I wonder if there's a way that we, as a commission, want to make a request of council to find out kind of how did we miss that? How did we miss that opportunity for solidarity? How did we miss that being able to be on the right side of that process visibly? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I mean, maybe initially it's just the outreach and the question being asked. I don't know what council knew in advance of that. I heard about it probably as you did after the fact. When I saw it, I think maybe in the Sentinel, and probably something came through Dickinson as well at some point, but it was all after the fact. If the council was aware before it happened, I think that I do agree that that's a missed opportunity, and I would say that it would be ideal if the council or borough management would reach out to us and say, hey, we know that this is going on. This might be an opportunity for you to do some fact finding, to do some listening, to do some understanding, because that's also why they created this commission, I think. So we are an arm of the local government, and they could use us in that regard if they are not available for whatever reason. And I think many of us probably would have been jumped at the opportunity to get involved in that type of engagement. So to me, it is respectfully requesting that if they hear about these things in advance, they let us know as quickly as possible, so we can see how we may mobilize around it.
Yeah, I very much agree that seems to be really, really helpful, because I think while it may be good to just know for curiosity's sake what our public officials know and are sharing and whatnot, I think probably going forward what's probably most helpful to this body is that we get information so that we can participate as possible.
Any other thoughts, feelings, considerations, concerns, questions? So Stephanie, if I could just maybe ask Councilor Stubbe or Deputy Mayor Schultz how that sort of like us talking about it here, is that sufficient? Would they like something formalized in an email to come from the commission sort of making this request, or is this meeting sufficient?
I think the meeting's sufficient, and we can certainly, when opportunities arise where it seems to be, within the scope of the commission, give you all a heads up. I can say none of us were made aware of the repatriation that took place last week. We are typically directly invited when there are events that occur at the barracks. For instance, I attended the change of command by a special invitation a couple of weeks ago. I think I have a couple other invitations from either the War College or the barracks in my inbox right now for other events later in the summer that deal primarily with graduations and command issues. But we're given no heads up on the repatriation. I have mentioned it to Borough Manager Armstrong, and she was going to reach out and see if there was a particular reason why. It very well could have been they wanted that to be a very low-key, somber event, and we're not looking for any special attention to it. Having the Secretary of the Interior there and very little news coverage seems to suggest that maybe that's what was going on, but we're going to try to figure out what happened there.
Thank you. I think it's good to just even ask the question, because these are the same people that are ultimately kind of that same group of people are, arranging for visits of international fellows and, doing change of command ceremonies. Like, these are all similar communication channels. So how something like this wouldn't have come through that same channel is quite interesting, and certainly respectfully, that if there was, not wanting for there to be a big showing, but again, their social media looks a little differently than that. So I think, it doesn't cost us anything to ask the questions, and say, hey, this is something that's, as a council, the things that you're advising us on, the graduations and the things that you're inviting us to are important, and also important to us are, is this other thing that's going on with the repatriation project. So I appreciate you all taking a look into that. Any other thoughts, questions, considerations, or comments on that? Great, thank you. We'll go ahead and move along on the agenda. Is everyone all right? So we'll open it up now for public comment. We will ask community.
I think we have Unity Day.
Unity Day.
We skipped that.
Emily, I skipped you.
That's okay.
Sorry, I was really excited about the Indian school. I apologize.
No, not at all. And I think that this semicircle makes it difficult to get to everything. I don't love this seating arrangement. I just want to touch base with everyone about Unity Day. Kind of who, where, what, when, what do we need to have done in preparation for this. Maybe let's work from our bios, because a question was raised about getting our bios on the website in advance of Unity Day. Thinking that perhaps if attendees have an opportunity to read our bios in advance, they might feel more comfortable having a conversation with us. So I think the question that's still outstanding is, should they all be in third person or first person? So let me open the floor on that question.
I'm going to appeal for first person. I think it does make it a bit more personal, and especially if we're looking at being approached at Unity Day. I'd like to see the words coming from me. This is who I am in my own words.
So I like third person, and part of the reason why I like third person, of course I was going to say that, part of the reason why I like third person, besides the fact that I like to be formal, is just that I think that sometimes talking about things that you've done sound kind of braggadocious if it's put in first person, whereas it sounds less so if it's put in third. So it just might, I would just think if we were to make that transition, I would want to have a different set of facts in my bio, so it sounds different.
No, that's perfectly fair, and I haven't done that much in my life, so Maybe for me, it didn't seem like that. But I can get behind that. For me, it's not a deal breaker.
And while I'm not overly passionate about it one way or the other, but I do think it's rather typical for bios to be on third person, as Doreen mentioned at some point. But and the reason why I actually did mine a little bit both, the bio is in third person, and then there was a couple of questions that were there prompts, and those were in first person, because to me that is the part that personalized it. Why are you here, and what makes you interested about this? So you got a little bit of both in there, and so that's why I did mine that way. I'm partial. I think that's a good way to do it, but again, I'm gonna go with the majority. I'm okay either way.
I mean, I'm for that. Emily, you did that as well, where you had, third person, and then in the sections in which we had the question, what motivated you to apply for the TRC, that switched to first person. So I do like that. It gives it the personal touch as well. So
I'll just mention I did the same thing.
yes.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay, so we have agreement. Bios in third person, answers to the questions in first person. And they look,
Yeah.
I was actually surprised at how similar they looked in terms of length and such.
So I'll do that tonight after the meeting. I'll just stay here, knock it out, and send it.
Wonderful, much appreciated. Thank you.
You'll do all of them?
Yeah.
They're all sweet.
Right.
Click that next.
Otherwise, everyone knows it's Saturday. Setup begins at 10:30. We're meeting over at Hope Station. I think as many of us as can make it would be great. They're encouraging everyone to wear blue, color symbolizing peace. Hope Station has tables and chairs and that sort of thing. And then I think the last thing not the last things we need to talk about are these potential questions that Raz compiled today. Thank you, Raz. We might also want to do something like supplies list. Like, do we want index cards in a punch bowl? Do we want candy on the table? Or are we treating this like a true fair experience where people approach our table and they have all the usual things they might expect? But why don't we start with these questions? And Raz, would you mind talking us through how you envision this going day up?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Really, I think we should strive for as, I don't want to say informal, but I don't want to be reading off a prompt of these questions. I think this would make for a good backdrop for us to ask individuals. So I left it open to a brainstorm, just some things that I thought were high level enough. Emily, I'm trying to stay in your thought of like the 3 months of like learning or of truth telling. So I think it could be helpful for us to have on hand and just guide some conversation. I view it as less of a, less interview style, just more of if we are at a, striving to find the right things to say or questions to ask, then this could at least be a guide for us.
I'd also like to see kind of a box or something that allows for people to write things down, suggestions, etc. Because not everyone is comfortable, necessarily talking about certain issues. So that just invites others to give input.
I can wrap an old box in wrapping paper and cut a little hole and bring some index cards for people to do just that.
And maybe there is a place on the card for their name and contact information, but that's totally optional.
I was not planning to pre-write these cards, just have a stack available, and if you have thoughts you want to share with us, feel free to. No, I wouldn't. Name, colon, nope. I'm a little bit concerned about flow. having worked a lot of fairs about majors and things like that, that's a lot of questions for somebody who's bopping around to a lot of tables. So we may consider maybe coming up with. We can certainly have these as a prompt in the background. I agree with Raz that we don't want to be reading from a script, but we might want to print out like a big provocative question that will stimulate people who want to write on the index cards and drop off their thoughts.
Maybe a suggestion for that big provocative question is, what can the TRC do for you?
Mhm.
I definitely like that as the headliner. And of course, we can have the other ones if people engage. If we go deeper in that conversation,
Could we add to that and the Borough of Carlisle?
I only hesitate there because we can't help them with their borough bags or their water bill or the street cleaning, which honestly, I mean, the reality is there is some crossover there with some issues concerning race, that some of these things that like, so for example, like poverty and the cost of borough bags, right? So there's some intersections. I just worry that we'll end up down that.
Plus, logistically and aesthetically, if we have like a folding table like that one over there, and we're planning on like kind of draping the questions, it would be like, what could the TRC do for you? Big question mark. And it will kind of pull people in, and then that box will be there. Is that what you're thinking? That it would be sort of on display there. I can bring Scotch tape, but I have big printer problems in my house. So could someone else take responsibility for printing out the sheets of paper to hang up?
I can do that. I'm not sure about my availability for Unity itself. However, I can get that to you.
Excellent.
if it helps, just in terms of availability, just for logistics, like I'd like to be there the whole time. I have no scheduling conflicts, so just to have that concrete, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you. Should we have candy?
Yes.
Always.
Just one small concern about candy. Temperature. So we might want to find candies that won't melt and be disgusting.
I hear that Tootsie Roll and Tootsie Roll products are popular because they're non-melting and they have no peanuts and no gluten. I believe they're like the most allergy-free candy for fairs. I can pick up some candy.
Can we get an idea of, Raz, I know you said you could be there for the whole day. Is there anyone else that can commit to the whole day or parts of it?
What is the whole day? So it starts at 10:30.
12 to 3. Just the actual
Thank you, Stephanie.
Kendall, are you able to be?
I am able to be there. I'm not going to say I'm going to be there from 10:30 to 3, but I can certainly commit to 2 to 3 hours.
Same. I could be there maybe for about an hour and a half. So maybe if you and I tag team, you cover an hour and a half, I'll cover an hour and a half.
I was going to tag team.
I feel pretty satisfied with this item. Are we okay to move on? Other thoughts?
I'm good.
Do we just want to make sure we have at least an understanding of like which hours are covered, or is that something we can do offline? All right,
Yeah, we have 3 of us that are able to be there the whole time.
okay.
Okay, well, one more thing. This may seem like a silly question, but if anyone asks for contact information for us. Like we're not on the website yet. I'm not sure if we will be on there just yet. So what contact information? Personal emails?
Well,
Which
we had,
is,
yeah,
I see.
we had asked for an email address for TRC, and I'm not really sure about the status of that. Stephanie,
I can check on that for you.
okay. Is that possibly something that we would have before Saturday?
I don't know.
Okay, all right,
But I will ask. I will touch base with him.
Okay. So I mean, that would be ideal, and I guess if that's not going to work, we can give them Counselor Stubbe's email address. It's fun this way.
Well, I was gonna say, would it make sense to give some contact information for one of our wonderful chairs?
That's fine with me. But I do think we should work on getting an email address that forwards to all of us.
Yeah, I guess that's fine. Give them Emily's first. Oh. Thanks for pulling all that stuff for Unity Day together. I think this will be a good showing. All right, now we're at public comment. All right. So do we have any members of the community, either here present in Borough Hall or via Zoom, who would like to give some public comment? We would just ask that you keep your comments to 3 to 5 minutes and to give your name and address for the record. Stephanie, do we have anyone in Zoom?
No one has their hand raised at this point, so. Oop, Sean just popped up.
He doesn't count.
I still count. I still live in the borough. I just wanted to, I wasn't sure when would be a good time to hop into the discussion about the crest, so I wanted to give a little bit of background about that real quickly. As Tawanda, as you mentioned, a number of us have talked about the need to update that crest probably over the last couple of years. We haven't gotten it to a point where there was going to be any action. The reason I had brought it up in the context of TRC was because we didn't want to feel like we were stepping on an area that you may want to deal with. We are certainly prepared to move things ahead in a very deliberate and open process to deal with the crest. It's also something we want to update on the patches that our police officers wear. They wear something very similar to the crest on their arms. And I know Chief Landis has been raring to go to update that patch. So we'd like to get it moving quickly. We just didn't want to feel that we'd be stepping on the commission's toes in any way.
Did you provide your name and your address for the records? I think it's a good point. I think it runs parallel with the work of the commission in terms of capacity. I think it's still something that even if given to us, we would ultimately look to council to maybe fund some research or fund some artists to, commission something like that. We don't have a budget. So ultimately, some of that would get kicked back to you. I think we're able to, the 7 of us are able to look at it and say, yeah, that's a problem, and something should really be done about it. But again, I think the thing that should be done about it comes with a price tag, and we don't have a checkbook. That's just some of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think the price tag thing is something at least Councilor Landis and I have talked about, and our intention is to have an artist involved. At least the discussion between Councilor Landis and I that we haven't brought to the full council yet. And the question I suppose is whether that's something with all of the work that this commission will need to do, given that I think council can run with this and perhaps get input from the commission when needed. Is it something you want us to just move forward with and not inundate your busy schedule over the next year.
So my take on it is I think that council should move forward with it, and as you indicated, keep us abreast, engage with us periodically, and as it's appropriate before you reach the final stage of it. But I see no reason why it should be delayed by any means in order to let us get started on it.
I do have a question about what council's process is.
What the process would be?
Yeah, what the process would be. Yes.
It hasn't gone to the full council yet, so I don't know exactly what the process will be.
Just to double dip real quick on that, Raph, as you were asking that question, part of my question then is how important is the truth of how the crest came to be? Is that something that we want to, like, is that part of will that be a part of their process? And do we think that's an important piece of the process? Does that then need to kick back to where we are?
Related point. I was thinking about the process by which Mississippi got a new flag, because Mississippi was one of the last states to have a Confederate flag on its flag, and the process that they decided to use that was a process to kind of get community buy-in was to basically have a contest, get a bunch of solicitations, and then have a vote on this. So that was a way of kind of getting a lot of people involved, as opposed to a process that would be like commissioning an artist and getting that. So I was just wondering, there might be a process that kind of is more consistent with the kind of mission that TRC would be doing, this kind of community, kind of trying to get information from the community about what they would like to see, what they wouldn't like to see, what they find troubling. And so if Borough's going to do something like that anyway, no reason for us to do it. But a different kind of process might be one that at least this commission might have something to say about. That's the only thought I had.
I had the same thought, and I would just really recommend an RFP process where a serious consideration is getting a diverse pool of applicants who respond to that RFP and making sure that they have experience in developing artistic works that are responsive to history. And there certainly are those artists out there. But otherwise, yes, happy to have council do this and keep us engaged.
So then real quickly on the truth side, Councilor Landis is fully prepared with that information. She's actually been researching it for some time, and I think we'll be happy to share that information. I do like the example of Mississippi. We've had between the two council members have had informal discussions about it. Wanted some public component to it. Didn't necessarily think it was something we wanted to have as a sort of a public contest, more along the lines, I think, of the sort of an RFP, sort of almost a commissioning of ideas to be voted upon. I think that's a fantastic idea that can be part of the discussion when we bring it to council.
Deputy Mayor, do you have a timeline of when that would be going to council? Would it be at the next meeting or the next workshop meeting?
If based on this discussion, because we've been holding off a bit to allow the TRC some space to comment on this, I think we can move it ahead at the next workshop.
Would it be advantageous for any of us to be present for that meeting?
It might be, sure.
Okay, thanks. Anything else on that matter? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Stephanie, do we have any other public comment?
Nobody has their hands raised. So it's like that.
All right, do we have anyone here in Borough Hall? All of the residents that have gathered with us this evening? All right, no public comment. Fantastic. Emily, take it away.
Okay, we've all reviewed the action plan. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve it? Excellent. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Our action plan has been officially endorsed and will be forwarded to Borough Council. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Next up, do we have any announcements? Anyone have any announcements, upcoming dates, any things that we need to have on our calendar? So this was the last of 3 meetings that we had formally scheduled. Emily and I had some conversation about our next meeting, whether were we going to start going monthly, or did we need another bi-monthly meeting? And we felt that maybe another bi-monthly meeting, so 2 weeks from today, would be ideal. And then maybe at that point we can go monthly. And at that next meeting, I think there will be some emphasis on now that we've gotten that chunk of the work out of the way, the prioritization, maybe even looking at the working groups and sort of seeing where we go from there. So I didn't check with anyone's calendar, and I apologize for that, but just looking at 2 weeks from today would be August 2nd. And then the same time would be 6 o'clock. Does that work for everyone? You're not? Okay. Is anyone else unable?
I can Zoom in, but I won't be able to be physically present for quorum.
Are you able to Zoom in?
I can't say this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Just checking for reference, quorum is 4, is that correct? Is it just majority, or?
Yeah, I think so. It's 4.
Okay.
4 in person.
Right.
Yeah.
I will be here. I think you'll be here since you've selected it.
I actually was just getting ready to check my calendar. I'm pretty sure it's good.
I can be present.
I can be present, but I'm just wondering, should we push it to the following Monday, the 9th?
I can be present on the 9th.
As can I.
Likewise.
I can as well.
I'm still checking my calendar. Sorry.
Since that is already a quorum, might be some reason it's select the 9th.
Yeah, the 9th works. And we do have Zoom. To that point, we do have the Zoom capability, but it really just was not a fantastic option for me, especially like you said, our setup being a semicircle, and so it wasn't fun. So if we're able to be in person, I think that's probably the ideal way if we can. So then August 9th works for everyone, and prayerfully it works for Tristan also. August 9th at 6 o'clock would be our next meeting. And then would we look at monthly going forward? Would that be the second Monday of each month at 6 p.m.? Now, one of the things that this will do is on some occasions, it's going to put us right in between, depending on how the month falls, it will put us right in between, it can put us right in between a workshop meeting and a legislative meeting. Am I right, Stephanie?
Yeah, and also, I'm glad you moved it from the second, because we have HARB on the first Monday of every month at 5:30, so you would have to.
You'd have to fight with them. So I think the second Monday works well, not only
Yeah.
for Harb, but also gets us in between those two meetings if there's ever anything.
Typically, yeah, there may be some weeks where it's a little off.
Yeah. So the second Monday at 6 o'clock would be our standing meeting going forward every month, starting with August 9th. Awesome. That's exciting. And yeah, go. Yep, go
Sorry.
ahead. No,
I was just going to ask, just because I've been planning the social events, is there interest in doing more of these going forward, less frequently? We'll of course handle the actual scheduling offline, but is there interest for doing that? If so, I'm happy to send around polls and think about ideas. Is there interest for doing this still, or what's the feel of the room?
I think it's nice. You know, we're in the same profession as the school. Well, we're all kind of in similar professions. As the school year approaches, it might get busier. But I like the idea of doing social events together on the regular.
Yeah, I've missed the last two. I'd like to make one.
You've been sorely missed.
very much so.
That's on record.
All right, I will send around things soon. Thank you.
With more vegetarian options. Yeah. Thank you for that, Raph. Thank you for coordinating that. Any other thoughts, questions, consideration, comments, concerns, ideas, frustrations?
Don't open that door.
It's open. All right. I mean, I'm all in favor of giving us back 51 minutes of our evening. So if there's nothing else to come before this body, at 7:09 p.m., this meeting is adjourned.